A Michigan realtor was doing his job in broad daylight, doing his job. And he was handcuffed and detained by local police, along with a couple other folks that were there while he was doing his job. I don't want to give up too much information on this yet, because the details of this are just a little bit devastating. Let's go straight to it. So Eric Brown is the realtor. He's a black realtor. He's a black man, and he's in Wyoming, Michigan, and he had been given a potential buyer who also happened to be black, and his 15-year-old son a tour of a home that is on the market. So just minutes into the viewing on August 1st, Brown's client noticed several police officers outside the home with their weapons pointing toward the property. So Brown and his client tried to explain why they were in the home from a second floor window, to no avail. So because the members of the Wyoming Police Department had their guns still drawn and demanded that they all come out in single file with their hands up. That's the realtor, that's a potential buyer, and that is the potential buyer's son. Placed all three of them in handcuffs. So they kept their guns drawn on all of us. This is what was said by Roy Thorne, who was the potential buyer. He said they kept their guns drawn on us until all of us were in cuffs. So that was a little traumatizing, I guess, because under the current climate of things, you just don't know what's gonna happen. So I want you to imagine that situation. My wife and I and kid have been to some open houses, been to some showings for houses. A lot of people buying houses lately. And you're just going on your normal Saturday afternoon to go and view a house, and then within several minutes of being inside the house, you're filed out with your hands up with your kid and handcuffed and sat down and interrogated. So what happened after that was, it was only once they're sitting down in cuffs that Brown was able to show his real estate credentials to the officers, who realized then immediately after realizing their error. They released them immediately after realizing their error. He said that officer came back and apologized again, but at the same time, the damage was already done, is what Roy Thune told this local TV station. My son was a little bit disturbed. He hadn't seen anything like that. He is not going to forget this. So what did the police department in Wyoming, Michigan then have to say? According to them, officers were responding to a 911 call from a neighbor reporting there was a break-in at the home. Officers were aware that a previous burglary had occurred at the same address on July 24th, and that a suspect was arrested and charged for unlawful entry during that incident. That's what the captain, Timothy Pohl, said in a statement. He said the caller indicated that he previously arrested the suspect and returned and again entered the house. I'm not sure how the neighbor just knows all this. I don't know if the neighbor works at the police department. I'm not sure if the neighbor's in booking. I'm not sure if the neighbor's the person who does lineups. I'm not sure if the neighbor is anywhere in law enforcement, but somehow the police thought that the neighbor had all this definitive information enough for them to drive up, jump out of their cars and draw their guns on a house in a neighborhood.
Yeah, so guys, the racial assumptions aren't just from the police. They're unfortunately also from the neighbors. So now think about a couple of things, just based on pure logic. Do you think, let's say that there was a robbery, it probably was, okay, in the house. Let's just take that as a given, right? Do you think that the neighbor called the cops every time a realtor came in? Or every time a new family came to look at the house, because the house is for sale? Presumably that's happening all the time. No, he called it one time that the people involved were black. He said, there's a bunch of burglars next to me. Why did he or she make that assumption? Guys, think about I can't get past the injustice of, if you're black in this country, people constantly assuming that you're guilty. It's too oppressive to think about. Please step outside of your own shoes for a second. And I'm asking you this, I'm the non-black person on this panel, right? And so I've done this many times, and I hope you can do it, and that you could begin to find some empathy. Like they pulled the guns on this family, and then they handcuffed him after seeing it's a family with a 15-year-old son, right? And presumably they were dressed fairly well because it's a professional realtor, and the family's going to see a house. They see business, people probably dressed in business attire, and a family. Now, if they came in guns drawn because they got the call from the neighbor, right? And then they saw a white family and a white realtor dressed in a realtor outfit, again, presumably. Do you think they would have kept the guns drawn and handcuffed them before they found out what was going on? Some of you might say yes, but you're just living in a different reality than we are. Adrienne.
No, absolutely. And a lot of people love to live in that reality of denial of the fact that our society does not treat everyone the same and that there are stereotypes that follow people around. And we also have to bear in mind that this likely happened during the day. You think someone's going to commit a burglary during the day with a 15-year-old, and I'm sure there's a for sale sign on the front of the property. Like there are too many factors that tell you that this was racially motivated, even if this captain of police says he does not believe that race played a role in this. The fact is that some of us cannot walk the streets living our normal lives without a presumption of criminality that gets attached to us. And I can't begin to tell you how it impacts my daily life, where I feel I have to tiptoe. I have to go the extra mile to make sure people don't think I'm up to no good. When you just can't be yourself and enter predominantly white areas like Wyoming, Michigan, which is 73% white and only about 8% black, you cannot truly live your life. And do you think that that family will buy a house there? No, because they've essentially been told you're not welcome here. You're presumed to be a criminal.
So as these types of things happen, Adrienne, that was the first thought I had too. Because when neighbors are looking at someone looking at a house, anytime you move in anywhere, even if it's just for a rental, you're like, well, I hope my neighbors aren't a-holes, man. I really don't have to deal with people that I don't like. And you don't find that out until you meet them. But in some cases, people just look at you and go, yeah, I don't want to live near him or that other person, because that's not that person I'm gonna live next to. Let's keep it real. Yes, that's an assumption, but that's an assumption based off of a history of facts of how this works and the way people run folks out of their neighborhood. And also, do you think that this realtor is gonna be very comfortable showing the house anymore at all in this neighborhood? Guns have been drawn on him. And as you point out as well, this cop said it was not racially motivated. How the hell do you know? How do you know? Were you in the house with the person who called the cops on him? And also he said that putting them on handcuffs and sitting them down is a part of their protocol, department protocol. Is part of the protocol also to pull your guns on a house when someone's inside? What is the threat on your life? Multiple police officers that are out front? Was there some call where they said a man walked in with a long gun and said he's gonna hoard himself up in this house until the cops come and get him out? What reason do you have walking up with guns?
Yeah. So by the way, this happens very frequently. There's another case that was publicized. There's tons of cases that are not publicized where people just get frustrated and go home. But in Cincinnati, this happened with a black realtor and his client in 2019. Just last December, it happened in Arlington, Virginia, with a black real estate agent and a photographer who was hired to take pictures of houses so they could list them. They could put it up online. I interviewed Steve Hill, who does a similar job with assesses houses, takes pictures, got pulled over by police. And you can check out that interview on The Conversation. He ran for office up in Palmdale. And so it happens over and over and over again. I'm just gonna ask you to empathize one last time. Look, we've terrorized black people in this country for hundreds of years and told people you should assume all these terrible things about them. And there's nothing they could do. They said based on their skin color, you should assume they're criminals, they're more likely to be violent. I don't even want to get, every time I think about all the stereotypes and it makes me sick. Now you gotta walk around with that on you at all times. You gotta be thinking, okay, who's gonna accuse me of something? What do they think about me when I didn't even do anything? Now, if you're white or you're not black, you never dealt with that. You never went to a house to look at it and thought, is a cop gonna arrest me for looking at an open house, right? Or gonna pull a gun on me? So for God's sake, I'm asking you to have empathy so we can all fix this together.
One more thought. If you've ever, I promise we're leaving now. If you've ever said, where are the fathers in these black folks? That's what's wrong with our society. That's what's wrong with the black, whatever, what's the term that was like used? The black, not even community, but
culture.
they say, yeah, black culture. Oh man, the fathers aren't in the house. Here's a father with his 15-year-old son. What if he got shot by cops? Then where would his father be? He wouldn't be there. Or maybe the son would have gotten shot because apparently that kid is old enough to be seen as a criminal just on sight. Why don't these black folks get a real job and go ahead and start being true members of society? hey, there's a black realtor who's doing, he's professional and he's doing his job, but he's been run out of the community. So the next time you ask why black folks aren't doing the things that black folks are doing that you just don't know about, consider the fact that maybe some other folks don't want them there, don't want those fathers in the homes, don't really care anything about the lives of these folks because they're not real humans to them, because we've been conditioned since forever to think that. Look at them, make a judgment, and then make a definitive life-ending action towards them. And then see if you're very comfortable with that life. You won't be. You just absolutely won't be.
Definitely. Yep. And if you're also non-black, be an ally. I can't begin to tell you how many great friends I have who've accompanied me places that I couldn't go, or because I knew I'd be hassled or mistreated in some way. And so they've stood by my side. They've been a conduit. They've pushed back. So if you have that power and that authority, please use that privilege.
Man, if the cops have their guns drawn and you just reach for your cell phone because you don't know what's happening, you're gonna call your wife. This is not the right way to do things. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.